Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 128 of I Got Gameplay. Yes, this is Michael Burhan here tonight, and conspicuous for their absences are my co-hosts. And reason being is that, well, Xander's off getting drunk somewhere because Xander's having a bit of a rough week. You know, he's been overexerting himself at work this week, so he's kind of off the grid. We've got Mr. Sean Michelin, I believe, is at work today. Chris Sanderson's busy himself. And Anina Kasky has just exhausted herself being on film shoots. And also Jamie Styles is busy at another con. So that just leaves myself and my co-host. Basically, we're turning this into a little bit of a Burhan and the Boy episode. Mr. Dave Wade.
Hello, hello.
So Dave, tell me what you've been up to today. I know today's not one of those particularly great days for you.
I've, been having a bit of a vommy day. I'm watching Bowfinger on TV right now because it was on TV in the background. We had a little bit of chat of that, a little bit of a chinwag before. What a truly underrated gem of a movie. I know movies are nothing to do with this podcast, but when Eddie Murphy was still cool.
Charlie Murphy,
Seems so long ago, doesn't it?
fuck your couch.
And I've been playing a massive amount of Spectrum games.
Cocaine, it's a hell of a drug.
I can't feel my legs. Sorry.
How did Chappelle show that? Like, what are you doing, man? Why did you do that to me, Charlie Murphy? That was 5 weeks ago. No, that was yesterday. And then he realised. Cocaine, it's a hell of a drug. I love that. I'm going to watch that now. I'm going to do a big show burn of the Chappelle
It's funny,
show.
though, if you watch it back on DVD and not with commercials, a couple of the Chappelle episodes actually knock in at 13 minutes long.
Wow. Well, that's
And you didn't realise it at the time when you watched it.
that's the funny thing, though. It was a good, I thought, good, honest comedy. It was funny. It worked. The humour was really dark. And I love the addition of Charlie Murphy as well. I feel like he's a real big underrated comedian. Like, since the Chappelle show, he hasn't really done much with himself lately, which is a shame.
I think, and it was what was the reason Chappelle walked away from it? Apart from,
They say drug use.
I thought it was studio intervention and.
Hey, Mr. Sean Michelin's joining us today, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, literally just give me a minute. I just came in. I had some employees over, and we're having barbecue. I'm just gonna go grab another beer.
Cool.
Be
So
right back.
yeah, you were saying, Dave?
I heard. Well, I mean, it's all hearsay. That it was studio intervention, and he got a little bit fed up with people shouting his catchphrases at him when he walked down the street because he was more traditionally stand-up bloke.
Yeah,
Which is why I think he did that movie Block Party, which was, he organised that massive block party.
I think with him, I believe it's one of two things. I think it was a drug issue, and secondly,
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah, of course, because I can't. It's basically me surmising it. It's my own interpretation of what I believe it is. We can never know truly what it is unless we actually have been there. And secondly, I think it was just burnout. I just don't really. I feel that the network was trying to force their own ideas behind the show, and he wasn't having it. So it happens sometimes. I've been there. Most people have been there when you're trying to do something. Like, we've been there with I Got Gameplay, where the show was doing amazing on with the network that we were on previously, and they kept trying to push their own agenda. And it ended up basically having us parting ways with that said network. I believe you were on the episode where they cut us off 5 minutes into it.
No, I'm sure it was Xander, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Xander. I believe you were on there. I probably wasn't. It was just Xander and a few other guys. But I remember when they cut us off and everyone got extremely angry. And a shout out to Clint Davis. He kind of saved us when we were on XFI, before we made the transition over to the Retro Island network. And, I know the network's changed quite a bit. And for those of you people out there who have maintained a stance with us, and as we moved over to YouTube and, basically allowing us to kind of integrate ourselves onto different networks, just bear with us. That's what you need to do. Just bear with the network. I understand we're kind of losing viewers at the moment as we're going into a bit of a transition, but bear with us. We've got some amazing shows, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on, because
it's like a shirt. Just give us a chance to get the iron working, and then you'll get a lovely crease-free product at the end.
Exactly. But just keep on, this is a gaming podcast. Let's talk about games. Now, today's episode, we want to talk a little bit about Kickstarters.
Do we have any news?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to do. I was going to put us onto a little bit of gaming news first before we move on to Kickstarters. So usually what I do is I Google on the internet and find out what's going on, because it's been a bit of a slow day, apart from, of course, Iger's new project, which is, I believe, amassed over 2 million so far and still making more and more stretch goals.
Okay, I'm back.
Now,
what's your tipple of choice, by the way, Sean?
What's that?
What's your tipple of choice?
Tonight?
Yeah.
Coors.
Good man.
Coors Banquet. Eastbound down.
One thing I wanna quickly highlight about is, apparently there's been rumours, and I'm going to say this allegedly, that Konami is dead in water because they've decided to concentrate their focus on mobile platforms and PC gaming, pretty much what Sega's doing, and staying away from console manufacturing. Now, the thing, what's going on at the moment, apparently it was a document that was leaked. It was in Japanese. A lot of people surmising their own, basically putting their own interpretation about this. And I've said this, Johnny Millennium basically spoke on this in the Hyper Console Gamer. Bill Eisenberg, aka Alpha Omega Sin, talked about it on his YouTube channel. Review Tech USA as well. Myself, I'm kind of waiting to see what's going on, but when let's let the announcement come out in English from the horse's mouth before we interpret anything, because the whole internet's got a buzz of this. People are sitting there telling Konami to go fuck themselves, and it's kind of a hollow time in gaming at the moment, because we've seen a company that went from strength to strength, ready to release a game, Metal Gear Solid 5, which is now in limbo. No one even knows if that's going to be released. So what's your opinion on this? We'll start with you, Sean. What's your opinion on this?
Konami got him.
Yeah. What will you start, Dave?
You see some companies, they switch gears servers. Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you're a bit muffled.
Oh, I don't know why it shouldn't be. Any better?
Much. Okay, as you were
Let
saying?
me see. Oh, wait. Let me. Well, see, companies change gears through the years, but not always to the likes of their diehard fans. I mean, we've had so many companies look at whatever SNK is now. It's Game Playmore. They don't make Neo Geo games anymore, really. But Konami really is throwing up a big FU to a lot of the fans, in my opinion. I mean, their IPs they've had for 30-odd years now have been, nothing short of amazing, and now they're going to kill them so they can do some mobile games and dating sims. They're going for the faster bucks versus the padded and insulated and insured consumer that they've always had. So it's kind of like DC has done in the last 3 years. DC Comics now with the new 52, they've killed off and changed and heavily altered a lot of continuity to attract new readers versus the current readers they had, who thought everything was fine.
Basically, what Marvel's doing as well.
Yeah, very
There's a
here
little
and
bit
now
more political stuff in the Marvel one, though, isn't there? Coming back to Marvel versus.
Well, yeah, I mean, even they're changing things with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch to show they're not mutants, so they can make sure they're in the movies.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, people don't understand is, if you look at Japanese trends, Japan is not very big on console gaming anymore. People don't get that the Japanese sales of consoles and console gaming has gone down. Nintendo consoles are flatlining in Japan. Sony, Microsoft's non-existent there. Japanese players are actually moving on to mobile platforms. So what these companies are doing that are based in Japan, Konami, Sega, they're moving over to mobile and PC platforms as well, in order to make sure that they move towards the market that they can cater to. That's earning them the most money.
it's a double-edged sword, and you have to walk a very fine line. And basically, there's nothing wrong with wanting to move with the times, progress forward, and enter new markets. But you have to be very careful about alienating your core audience, the people who put you there and bought the products that made your name, and still honor their, support. Because let's be honest, whatever route you go, traditionally, it will be your original franchises that will still bring in a core level of money, if you know what I mean, like. Be bankable, continuously bankable, a safe bet. But there's no reason just to churn out ones without thinking of or trying new things. But so you got, what you do with one hand, you got to balance with the other hand because it comes to politics, which isn't it? Which is you don't alienate your core audience because you'll lose a lot of money overnight. But at the same time, you do still need to reach out for a new audience. But balance
Yeah.
both of them carefully.
But that's the thing when it comes down to it. It's the whole issue that's going on at the moment is people are going, oh fuck you Konami, without understanding the ins and outs of the politics of gaming in a sense. I understand people are angry, and in terms of like the fandom here, in terms of my like a lot of my friends in the gaming industry as well. I get it, I really do, and as a fan and as someone who's been working closely with Konami on my own project, it irks me. A lot of this stuff irks me. But
Everyone's a critic, but not everyone necessarily does their homework.
pretty much, and this is where the problem lies, and this is what kind of moves forward onto the topic of tonight. Because
I have to correct something because you reminded me when you said about
go for it.
the change in Japanese video game market. Well, last week, Nintendo announced its first operating profit in 4 years. And this is before going over to mobile apps.
Yeah, and a lot of it is due to the fact that the amiibo trend and what Nintendo have done to kind of keep that trend going on an uphill, like key, is because they're managing to package these amiibos with games. So what they do is they get more limited edition amiibos. People are buying these things out of stock. You're getting resellers buying a huge chunk of them. So they're making a lot more money, but as well, a lot of the profits are coming from the US and Europe. So what are they doing? They're making more US and Europe exclusive titles.
Well, it's an interesting thing coming back to what I said about Konami about balancing traditional core users with new markets. Because who would have thought that Nintendo essentially would enter the action figure market? But they've done it in such a way that they've integrated it with games, and so they are still honouring their traditional market. If that makes sense.
Exactly that. So, in terms of the way that Nintendo are doing things, and this is what people don't understand, Nintendo are always a company that takes chances. And even though, you can love amiibos, you can hate amiibos, but they're working for Nintendo because they've made something that has managed to sell like hotcakes. They've made
I
a
still
trend.
need a how-to on getting mine into my game without having to open it from the box.
You'd have to remove that foil thing at the bottom of it.
As you know, as an action figure collector, that's sacrilege.
I know. What I can do is I can always bring my amiibos down to you because I'm going to be passing through you anyway when I go on my journey. So I can always find time to do that and scan them all in for you. But anyway, Sean, what do you think about this?
About Nintendo actually making some money. Well, it shows a lot of the people that were doubting things like, oh, the Wii U is going to be a failure, Nintendo's going to dry up, Nintendo's going to disappear, Nintendo's going to go bankrupt, which a lot of it was just clickbait generated by the media. Nintendo's been doing this for a while. It takes most any company about 3 years to make a turnover in the gen market when you switch over to the current gen. And they were the first ones at the gate, so they're going to be the first ones really showing any real true profit. And these amiibos are just literally a license to print money. It just took off like crazy. It's like Nintendo's like Apple in a lot of respects, where they take something somebody else has done, but they figure out how to do it better. And just with the installed IPs that they got and things like that, they've just it's been just hit after hit really for them now. And I'm really glad that they're starting to do good now, and hopefully the other two will start pulling ahead a little bit, and this will be a good gen instead of the tepid little bit of releases we're getting now.
But this is the thing as well. A lot of these console manufacturers are now focused on independent gaming. It allows me to kind of segue into the last bit of news that we've got. which is Koji Igarashi's new project called Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. It's an unofficial successor to the Castlevania franchise. And
Spiritual successor.
Spiritual successor, of course. And a lot of like people who are managing to kind of migrate their their IPs over to these new like independent companies, and thus it's allowed them to do things on their own, because now like a company, for instance Konami or Capcom, have said, hey, we don't want you doing this. You can now just go, hey, fuck you, I'll just go on Kickstarter. And it's proved to be prominent. Now, if you look at the incentives for this thing, Igashi has managed to get pledges into this game for about, like, it's ridiculous how many pledges he's got. $8,500 pledge. You've got one $8,500 pledge to get the Cache of the Occult. So you work with the developers to create your own secret hidden room somewhere in a castle. You get all the tiers in there as well, plus $30 international shipping on this. And this is not calculating the shipping. This thing has amassed over 2.164 million with 27 days to go. And that's within 2 days of backing. So, Dave, do you think this is going to be a new trend, that independent game in the market is going to be going on to...
It's kind of been going that way, but it all comes down to the fact that whether there have been successful ones and things like that. I think even though the console may be lagging now, it's no denying that the Ouya kind of started the trend with the potential of this sort of thing. But this trend is only as useful as potential is the ones that work. So I think, based on the success of this, and it's a more high-profile one, that, if more of them come along like this and kick off properly and don't, languish and become failed, because people always look at one that's failed. It could have been a brilliant idea, it could have been, its heart was in the right place, but for whatever reason it didn't take off. People always remember the failures as opposed to the successes. That's just the negative nature of humanity. So I think this going the way it is, it's going to open the eyes of a lot of people. And if there are a few more done correctly, high-profile ones, then I definitely see it's the way things will end up going. If also because it means people can cut themselves off from the old school, strings that tied them to production ideas by companies that were forced upon them, that ended up bugging their product down with stuff that they never intended in the first place. So, alternative means to raise funds, when done correctly, are always good, because you get the purest product that the author intended.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Sean? What about you? What do you think about this?
About him being able to do this or that, he can pretty much. It's the same as Inafune now with Mighty Number 9. You're going to get the innovations in there that they want to put in there, not corporate assholes probably can say, oh, well, how about you work this in there, that in there, where we can tie into this or that, or make it look a bit more cutesy or whatever. You can see the true vision a lot of times of this. Yeah, it's going to be different characters than the ones we knew, but the spirit and everything should be there, and so it should be the same. It's the same people making it. It's like you watch
last week. It's like Gunstar Heroes. That was way back on Mega Drive from the Genesis. That was people. I'll articulate properly in a minute. Who were fed up of Konami demanding that they just make sequels to products that already existed when they had ideas of their own. So they went, all right, bollocks. We'll go and form our own company, and basically we'll make games that pretty much we all know what they are. But
that company is Treasure. They made one of my favorite games, the Game Boy Advance, the Astro Boy, the Mega Factor.
I played this week, which is brilliant. I found, and you can download it for free. This probably means nothing to anyone in North America listening, but there's an original, but it's done in the style of the NES Castlevania game on the ZX Spectrum.
Really?
And it's really, it's your standard Castlevania game. I'll tell you how I know that, because I rage quit 5 screens into it. And it's a bang on, it's just done with a Spectrum color palette. But there's no denying, if you look at it, it's...
so would you use a Spectrum emulator or put it on a cassette and play it on Spectrum?
The website will actually let you download the files, a TZX or TAP image or tape image, so you can actually make a cassette version of it if you want, or and I am a Spectrum fan, as you know, you could do what I do, which is I emulate my Spectrum on my Wii just because it's easier.
easy.
I should try this soon. I have a Raspberry Pi there, and it does have a Spectrum as one of the systems it can
There are
emulate.
some absolute classic bloody gems
Or
on
your
there. And it's,
Uyo as
it's
well.
something else coming back to what we're talking about with, products being spiritual successors, but there's a whole, like with this Castlevania game proves it, whole a market out there now of people making these official produced, properly budgeted and produced homebrew games of superior quality for systems from 30 odd years ago.
Well, it goes back to what the Oliver twins said when I did my interview with them on Retro Unlim's YouTube channel. So if you go to www.youtube.com/RetroUnlim and check out the interview on Sky Saga, and they basically said that if you're someone who wants to develop a game, you don't have to go and do a portfolio and take it to a company now. You can literally just do work for people. Go on there, make your own game, and just port it to a console. People will download it, people will like it, people will enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? And that's where the big thing is, I think.
There's no such thing as a traditional market anymore, you could say, to some degree.
No, there isn't, because the market is expansive. The one thing that I think is, and it's exactly what I basically said after I did the interview with Bedrooms to Billions, when I was talking about that, gaming as a whole has changed. It's gone back to the way it has done with the ZX Spectrum. It's become rather...
Come full circle.
Yeah, it's come full circle to the point where gaming now can be done by anyone. We can all do it. If I wanted to program a game, if I wanted to do basically, say, for instance, something what Inafune wanted to do, or if I wanted to make a game symbolic of Mega Man, I could do that. All I've got to do is get my IP out there, make my IP, and keep going. And I think a lot of the mistakes that a lot of these companies are having when it comes to Kickstarter is that if they're brand new and they haven't got anything, they're not tried, they're not tested, they put a game out there in the hopes that the game gets funded. And 9 times out of 10, people don't get behind it because they don't care about it. The thing about Koji Igarashi is he's got a huge back catalogue of games that people have loved. So what he's done is said, well, I need this amount of money. I need $500,000 to make this game happen, and people have come in droves because they wanted this game. It's basically them pre-ordering this game. Do you know what I mean? And it's allowed them to do that to the point where they've made a shite ton of money. 2 million isn't something like I know what I would do with that 2 million. That could finance a company for me going into the next 5 to 6 years. In terms of like filmmaking, because it's so easy to do nowadays. This game probably didn't even need 500 grand to even get off the ground. Truthfully, probably 50 grand could have got this game off the ground, but he wanted more visuals, he wanted a team of programmers, he wanted
to honour his fan base and deliver quality.
Yeah.
Not just quality, he wanted to deliver something that could be ported over to the newest generation of platforms, which was smart. And he also wanted to make sure that he could produce disc-based copies of this game, which is what he's done. It's there. This thing is going to happen, and it's going to be bigger than ever. I guarantee you we'll probably see it go even up to 3 million by the end of this. And it's a great thing. I'm glad for him. I'm very, very happy. But this is where the problem lies, and this is why I want to talk a little bit about this. Recently, we discussed this a little bit on previous shows of IGG about GoFundMe campaigns and Kickstarter campaigns.
Indiegogo and all that.
Indiegogo. And the thing that I want people to what I'm trying to do, because I hear the term e-begging a lot. This happens a lot. But I want to talk to people about the pros and cons of this system. And the reason why this system is so effective is Xander kind of put it out there, because I've had a mutual friend of ours, a mutual acquaintance, which I'm not going to name names. He does a gaming podcast of his own. And what he does, he was going on about the fact that he feels that Patreon is e-begging. That people shouldn't be asking for money to do something that people get for free. Now, I'm kind of on two separate spectrums of this. Recently we've had some friends of ours, the Happy Console Gamer, release a Patreon. What most people don't know is Happy Console Gamer have been doing it for, I believe Johnny's been doing it since what, 2002? Don't quote me on that, but I think it is since 2002. So you take that 15 years. It's 2015 now, right? So he's been doing it for about 13 years. 13 years of free content. He's also released a movie. And people have backed this, and a few people have been complaining about it. And it's kind of left into a whole situation of, is it right? Is it wrong? Johnny does this in his free time. He's got a full-time job at the same time. The shows cost money to make. And time that he can't basically dedicate himself to these shows. And he's also stated that he's going to be using the money from the Patreon to support the show. None of it's going in his pocket, and he's an honest guy, and I believe that. You get better shows, you get more shows more often, better quality, and if you choose not to back it, you still get the same amount of shows that you get in terms of his vlogs. It's the quality's going to upgrade, the show is going to upgrade, and he's going to do a lot more with it. I don't see a downside to this.
I think what it comes down to is credibility of the idea. Because you can tell when something is genuine, and you can tell when something is why people don't get on board with it, because it's asking for something that's not even related to the product of the individual that they've traditionally put out, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
and this is exactly, which is just what it is. It's carrying on as it was. He's been honest up front with it, So when people say that's e-begging, I disagree.
So define e-begging for me, Dave.
E-begging to me is when something is just it's ludicrous. Do you know, like when you see Larry Bundy does brilliant ones on it, and people, I don't know if all of them are piss takes, but I need to raise this much money so I can buy a set of Google glasses so I can film my son every day till he grows up.
Or I want to start a GoFundMe campaign because I need a caravan.
Yeah, and it's stuff like that's, well, first of all, your glasses will be obsolete when he's an old man, because if it's Google, it'll be on variant version product number 772 at that point. But what's that? That's just absolutely ludicrous. There's no credibility in that whatsoever. No wonder that person got flack. That's completely nutty removed from someone who's, as you said, got a decade plus of material that they've done out of their own pocket, and they've been honest and just said, like you said, you'll still get it. But if you put money into something that he's openly said it's going nothing but straight back into the show, because he's an adult who has a full-time job, and he's been doing it for so long, that's credible. I see nothing wrong with that. I think, but defining begging is when someone just asks for something that's just utterly stupid and unrealistic, and there's just, you look at it and just think, well, why would you even ask for that?
And there's no rewards as well, which is where I feel that's like the Happy Console Gamer are going to give you more unsolicited free content and try and do new things. It all goes back to you in terms of how much you support them using Patreon. The second thing, if you're like on Kickstarter, a lot of, I think, that people have migrated to this new project for Higashi is because he's producing something that is tangible,
And not quite the same thing, but there are a few similarities between that and what Johnny's doing, which is there's a previous body of work that shows it's a credible idea. It's not something out of left field, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Back catalogue, basically.
Builds more credit with the lenders, so to speak.
So going on from that, Sean, give us an opinion on this.
Why on these GoFundMe things like that? Well, I mean, you got ridiculous ones like he had mentioned about the fellow, the Google Glass, or another fellow who was he wanted $50,000 so he can buy the equipment to start up a YouTube channel for reviewing games, and no body work whatsoever. Just he's wanting this money so he can get started. No show of his talent or anything. unrelated to ones like that, I've seen ones where this fellow, he's a career student. He's like 32 now. He's been a career student since he's 18. He's asked all his options for funding for anything, and so he was trying to get an Indiegogo on the go to fund his schooling for going to be a fisheries observer.
Or yeah, exactly. Because why doesn't he just do what everyone else does? He wants an easy ride, which is have all those horrible shit jobs to fund yourself when you go for college. Isn't that part and parcel of what college is, and makes you a better person for doing so?
Yeah.
And that's the big thing here. There's a difference between someone who wants money for nothing. Now, I'm going to give a few examples. I've talked about the Yogcast one. Even though they did give people something, they didn't give them what they were told they were going to give them. I consider that a failure.
I don't know anything about this one.
They basically wanted to make a game. People donated the money. They gave the game to the people who were developing it, who then pissed the money away. So the Oddcast guys took the money away from them, found a digital game that they could purchase for cheap, gave that game out to people instead. So they never gave them what they were promised, and they never received a tangible Yogcast game, which is what they wanted. But that's neither here nor there. They gave them something. There's a couple of others that happened where, prime example, the Anita Sarkeesian one, where she got backed for a feminist theory series, where she was supposed to produce a series of videos that I think she did like 3 videos and then stopped. She got over 150 grand for that. So
it's like 50 grand a video.
Yeah, and people still white-knighting her. It's and the quality never changed. The quality was still the same. She was saying that she needed to buy the games and use the games, and she's never played any of the games that she's reviewed, because you could tell that she's cut like footage from other people's YouTube channels.
Yeah, some people. That's why she don't have comments, because people have found their footage on there, called her out for it.
And she's blocked them on Twitter. Yeah, I've seen it. And she's also actually stated, she's come out and said that she's not a gamer. She's just doing this because she wants to be popular. She's basically the world's best troll. To name, believe it or not. But we won't go into too much detail about it. It's been discussed. We've talked about that previously. The thing I wanted to touch base on this as well is the fact that the internet is kind of soured on the idea of Kickstarters unless they can get something out of it. Kickstarters, Indiegogo, GoFundMes are supposed to be for people who have, one, either run out of options, or two, are passionate about doing something and need your assistance.
Yes, no, I agree with you on that.
A big one, is the GoFundMe that happened, not the GoFundMe, I believe it was Kickstarter, for a project known as Kung Fury. Do you guys know about this one?
No, go on.
Vaguely.
Okay, the director basically was producing, he had the equipment and he had the means to produce this movie in the same vein as old style kung fu action flicks. But it was done also very retro-like as well. The characters, the monsters in it. It looks amazing, sublime. He asked for the funds to do it. He kickstarted the project. And it made its money. And I'll talk about it. They're called Laser Unicorns, believe it or not. The posters were done. They got the actor involved. He looks like Mark DaCosta. This is actually quite funny. And the campaign made it. I'm just looking at the moment. It made $630,000 to bring it to life. It got people started $1 and you got $5, you got $10 rewards, $18, and people just backed the project, and it worked really, really well because it was all done on green screen, with a lot of visual style effects. The actors were there, it was computer generated. It looks amazing, and the great thing about it was, and it was entirely done in CG, and you had a fucking Nazi soldiers and Hitler who basically knew kung fu, and they produced a soundtrack for it. David Hasselhoff even did the lead song for this.
Nice.
True Survivor, yeah. It's very retro in terms of.
You go atop the Berlin Wall. So
It is very retro in turn. You got to see the video. I'll post the video on your timeline, Dave. It's fucking amazing. And it's a great, great film. And the director himself has now gone on to be sought after by Hollywood. He's actually attached to a couple of like Hollywood projects at the moment. He could be directing something. Apparently Disney are in talks with him as well. This is the thing. His career has kick-started based on the Kickstarter for this movie.
But then that comes back to what you said, which is sometimes people have got nowhere else to go, but that doesn't mean they're not viable talent.
Yeah, and he has.
But they don't want to take their product to other places because then their product doesn't become their product anymore, and all of a sudden it's a studio's idea, and your idea is like Brian's sitcom in Family Guy. All of a sudden it's completely watered down. There isn't anything left of your interjection in it. So yeah, like you said, sometimes people have to go this route because there's no other way to go at knowing that they've got an idea and they want it to do its full fruition and stay what it was in their head all along.
Or people find it's completely off the wall and stupid. And they're like, oh, we're not going to fund this. This is ridiculous. We're studio. We're not going to do that. And if you've gone in the film market, you can see, like, even the BBC. I remember they would fund, like, they had this little film fund where they'll fund 25% of your project. I had a movie that I was currently writing, which was a musical, a zombie musical, believe it or not. And it was going through their funding stages. They wanted 65% of whatever the movie earned. 65% just for a 25% backing. How fair is that to anyone who's a first-time producer? It's not fair. It's not a viable means because you don't make money off the movie unless it's a huge box office success. Unless your movie makes over 150 million, this Kung Fury is probably going to go straight to DVD, right? And that's the good thing about it. It's going to be digital. It's probably going to be on Netflix. It'll go straight to DVD. That's great. This film wouldn't make the director any money if he went through the means that he went through. But because it shows how talented he is, it's going to make a hell of a lot more buzz, and he will continue to strive. And that's the way that it should be. Now, let's go to game companies. Can you guys mute yourselves if you're going to basically, like,
Oh, sorry. Sorry,
Yeah, no
I thought I had myself muted.
No worries. But yeah, let's go on to, like, the next idea. Now, let's talk about Mighty Number 9, for instance. Mighty Number 9 was a passion project, and it kind of targeted the market of those who wanted a Mega Man game. Everyone wanted a Mega Man game. Everybody wanted a game so that they could play, because Capcom destroyed any chances, any hope of people wanting to play Mega Man. That reached its goal, and now people have got a game coming out that's going to be now it's basically tangible, and again, Concept have now become a viable company that's equal to Konami and Capcom. This wouldn't have happened if people didn't back the project, but I know it was a viable name behind it. Inafune is a viable name, but it's a big project that is now going to be leading onto other projects in spades, and thus is where people have to understand, in development of games, in development of films, in development of anything, Kickstarter is a viable means. Indiegogo is a viable means. GoFundMe is a viable means. You've got to trust in the project and trust that the person knows what they're doing enough to develop this project. You cannot sit there and shit all over them and then kill their dreams, because this could be this thing is replaced certain things, certain options that people would have had previously, but have been taken away from them because of the way the market is. The film industry is a $1 billion industry, and you know what the main focus of the film industry is now? You guys want to guess? Dave?
Porn?
No, $1 billion superhero movies and franchises. Universal want to do a monster movie franchise that kind of sunk down the water after the Dracula crap. Marvel and Disney doing the Marvel franchise, Star Wars franchise, geek culture, pop culture, billions and billions of dollars are putting in so they can get billions and billions of dollars returns per movie. So people can make money from the box office, which is oversaturating itself. You know, I guarantee you in probably the next 4 or 5 years, we're not going to even hear about superhero movies anymore.
It was like zombie movies a few years back.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And there was an oversaturation of that market. And then what they do is they tend to look at trends, you know, and real written media. Most of these guys go to Kickstarter to try and get their projects off the ground because no one else would give these guys a look in. It's not because they're not talented. It's because these guys don't want to take a chance on someone. They want established talents. They want established stars.
Milk a product, flog a dead horse till it's exhausted, shoot it, and move on, regardless that you've destroyed a franchise or whatever in the process.
Exactly.
Because it's to them bankable, it's safe, and to us boring.
Well, the gaming industry is doing the same thing. Assassin's Creed, for instance, they're on another installment now, which it's very GTA-esque. Very, they've got like the whole London thing. They've got American actors faking English accents in that, which makes me laugh. Because
Which one is this?
The new Assassin's Creed.
Oh, yes.
The game has no legs on it. It looks nice. It has a single player function, and the reason why they've taken out the multiplayer function is because it makes it easier to kind of develop the game with a single player component. And if there's a need, they'll develop a multiplayer component afterwards because they want to develop these games once a year so they can make the lion's share of profits in terms of Ubisoft. It's cut and paste. So what are you going to do when you want to develop a new game? You go to Kickstarter, you go to GoFundMe, you go to Indiegogo to develop a new game because people want to take chances. And there's only one company, and I'm sorry to say this for those people who are going to get butthurt about this, there's only one company who really want to take chances on the gaming industry. Does anyone want to guess who that is?
Nintendo?
Yeah, Nintendo. Sony are playing it safe. Microsoft are playing it safe at the moment in terms
Well, you
of
could
what they
argue with
want.
Halo 5, which, well, you know, will be massive, but they're doing the same thing as Disney and Marvel, aren't they? Which is event game.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that you've hit the nail on the head. In the same as the event movies, they're doing event gaming because they want to just basically continue with a franchise and milk it until people just get fed up with it to the point where they're just sick of it. The problem is when it comes to anybody out there, but Madden is another for instance of this. People get fed up with this stuff, but they don't do anything to kind of change it. You know, one of the projects that I got extremely annoyed with that people didn't back it was a project called Pixel Noir. It was kind of in the same vein as 16-bit style game. The story was there. It was about a detective who was killed and he had to find out about his own murder. It was very RPG-esque style, similar to JRPGs like Final Fantasy, and no one backed it. You know why? It didn't have enough presence. It wasn't shown on Kotaku. They're probably busy with the next Angry Joe fucking rant. About him ranting about Nintendo or some shit. The project never got off the ground, and the reason why it never got off the ground is because people weren't aware. And because people weren't aware, they were just not really doing much about it, and no one cared. And that's where the problem lay. And thus, a lot of projects that should have been funded are not happening. It's the same thing that I kind of, did a bit of a rant today on my Facebook
Well, it
page.
comes back to that you could argue that, albeit computer-based mainstream media, with these like IGN and stuff like that they're playing it safe as well because they're only talking about the things that they know will get them ad revenue. So,
and that's the thing. It's clickbait. And this is where I'm kind of... Dave knows, the guys at Retro Island know. When I was at Play Blackpool, my main focus was indie development. I would go to, most of the guys would go to the mainstream booths. I went to the indie development booth. I worked with Dave Moore to work closely with the indie devs to try and get as much PR as possible out for the independent games. There's a great, set of games that are coming out independently. And I talked to some established UK talent as well to kind of talk about the importance of the independent industry. Without you, and I'm pointing squarely to you, you're going to be like, you're standing there going, me? Yeah, you out there in Radio Land, who's listening to this podcast. Without you, these games will not get off the ground. And the thing that you can do, even if you don't have the money, because like a lot of these things cost $1, which if you live in the United Kingdom, $1 is 75 pence. You know, that's, if you don't have 75p on you, then you really are broke. I have 75p on me.
Yeah, but you can also support by word of mouth.
Exactly what I was saying, Dave. You can either do it by word of mouth, you can share it on your Facebook timeline, share it on Twitter. What you can do is make sure that this project has legs. Make it go viral. You know, I remember there was a campaign that happened a couple of years ago where they wanted to basically make a killer. Basically, this guy who was in the third world country, I've forgotten what his name was, Coney. And they wanted to make him go viral so that he would become enough of a presence so that the United States government would basically intervene with the fact that he was kidnapping children and turning them into one army. Nothing came of it, but it's one of those things. The same thing applies here. If you have a favourite game or a favourite movie that you want to see backed, make it go viral. Go out there, you know, email the fucking magazines, or email Porygon, email Kotaku, email all the other sites like IGN and Machinima. Let them know that there's an important thing that needs to be funded. Find out who the people writing these articles are, the bloggers, because they're not journalists, the bloggers writing these articles are, and pressure them on Twitter to get this out there. You know, I know feminism it was one of the big things at that time, so everyone was writing about it. Get the games in there. Try your best to lobby for these games. Go out there. If there's a game forum out there, talk to these people. You know, find ways to make it work. And make sure that you do your entire part to make sure it gets funded. And, you know, the reason why I'm talking about this, because I've got a project that I'm trying to kickstart in a sense myself. I've talked about it a little bit. I'm not going to go too much into it right now. But there's, you know, I've talked to a lot of people. The people who've heard about it have been ecstatic. You know, they loved it. The ones that are basically I've spoken to in certain circles have called me a scrounger and e-beggar and stuff. And again, I'm not going to try and make this personal because it's not. When it comes to your favourite project, when it comes to these projects, there's an importance that the survival of the gaming industry is you. Each and every one of you. And in order for it to survive, you cannot keep jumping on the bandwagon for the next big project by some big developer. You know, you've got to make sure that the indie devs get some love as well.
You can't complain when that happens and you think, oh, but this is more of the same. When are we going to get new stuff?
Exactly. You want new, go to the independent markets, have a look at the next big things on the Indiegogos and stuff, and champion these projects. Because in order to get these projects off the ground, it all begins and it all ends with you. And for those people out there, for those who want to fund these projects and you don't have enough money, just give $1. You don't have to give much. If you can't afford to have a tangible game, support it that way. Back it. The more people that back it, even if it's a small amount, you're helping. Don't allow these projects to die, because once they're dead, there's no way of getting them back off the ground. And that's, you know... And Dave, do you want to add anything to it?
No, I think you're right. I agree, which is, if you want more of the same, fine. But don't complain about it afterwards, saying that gaming is stagnant and boring and that you wish there were a breath of fresh air would come along, because unfortunately you shouldn't have to, you know, promote things yourself, but, you know, get proactive if you want to see a change. It's not entirely applicable to this, but it's a phrase that I've always liked, which is, if you've got a problem with something, people, vote with your wallet.
And that's the big thing. Me and Dave are very highly political minded in a sense. And the thing that we always say about is, if you don't vote, then you have no right to complain. The same thing goes here. If you don't back these projects, then you have no right to complain when you're seeing the same old shit again and again. And you see Assassin's Creed.
It's a negative mindset that I can't stand, which is, what's the point? It will never change. Life's always been like that from day one, but these big changes do happen and they do come along. But it does involve people having to accept that they do have an opinion, a voice, and a power. To just adopt the mindset, which is, what's the point, is, well then, shut up. You can't complain, because you basically just lay down and said, drive right over me.
And the biggest thing I'm sick of as well when it comes to stuff is self-entitlement. The whole self-entitlement of I deserve this or I deserve that. Just, people need to sit there and think to themselves, what is this person trying to achieve? Why are they trying to achieve it? And go out there and sit there and think, okay, maybe I can contact developers. Maybe I can see what, if they can sell me this project. In a sense, I don't mean sell it to you as in you're buying it. I mean sell it to you as in pitch it to you.
Yeah, sell you with the idea.
Exactly. I'm good at selling ideas. I pitched a few of my projects to people who have loved them. But sometimes networks, studios, channels don't really want to even know because it's not what they're looking for at the moment. It's not the current trend that they want. That's the big thing, and I think people need to understand something. Just because someone isn't the biggest guy, because they're not a James Cameron, or because they're not a Kenji Inafune, because they're not a Guillermo del Toro, or because they're not an Iger, doesn't mean that they're not credible in their own right. If they can show you what they've got working, or if they've got an idea and they know how much this idea is going to cost to get made, then work with them. Otherwise, in the end, don't complain.
We all lose.
Yeah, and don't complain when the next Madden comes out, or the next WWE title that's like cut and paste of the previous era, or the next Assassin's Creed 126 that was made and not bug checked because Ubisoft just want to throw out another game.
Assassin's Creed, more of the same edition.
In the end, it's all about you. It begins and it ends with you, with me, with Dave, with Sean, with every one of us. And that's the big thing. So, ladies and gents, I want to point that out to you because I'm tired. I am sick and tired of listening to the words e-beggars and scroungers. If someone is passionate about something, allow them to
Entrepreneurs
show
and mavericks,
their
I
passion. Exactly. And that's where I think the problem lies. Allow people to find their love, their passion, because you know what? In the end, you're funding a guy who could be the next Bill Gates, or it could be the next Steve Jobs. A person with your little push, with the little bit that you give, could help them build an empire that could create jobs. If you want to look at the tangibility of it, or they could be the next big game developer that
funding the next Ron Jeremy.
Exactly. At the end of the day, you're funding someone who is going to be big. In the end, and this is where it goes. In the reality TV era, people fund for Kim Kardashian to exist. Think about that. If Kim Kardashian opened a Kickstarter, I guarantee you that thing would be backed within a day. Which is a sad thing. Don't sit there.
I want my ass cloned. Give me $1 million.
Or I want to make a mobile app for $1 million. People would do it. The amount of downloads she had for a fucking stupid mobile app with her voice on it. She made a shit ton of money. And this game was free. Imagine what would happen if you fund something where people who are actually talented can make something work. Think about it, guys. Think about the impact you can make just by opening up your wallets and giving a marginal amount of your paycheck. We're not looking for $150. People are not looking for $1,000. If you give $1, which is enough to buy a freaking, probably an extra dollar on top could buy you a chocolate bar, It's less than a chocolate bar that you are spending on funding these projects. There is no fucking reason why you shouldn't. If you don't like the project, that's fine. But spread the word. Help these new indie developers get out there, because these guys, and I guarantee you, are the future of the gaming industry. The more you neglect these people, the more you basically put these people down, you're eventually going to kill something because you're an asshole. You know, the Oliver twins said it best when they said that they were disgusted with the amount of hate people were getting on their indie projects that they were giving away for free because some self-entitled little shit basically wanted to sit there and yell at them and tell them how bad their game was for someone who was just starting out. They didn't. Their first game wasn't amazing. They said themselves it was kind of shit. They used it as a template to get better. Criticism and assholiness and self-entitlement are two different things. Criticism is you sitting there talking and discussing something and giving feedback. Being an asshole doesn't take much, but you could end up ending someone's life and passion because you're a dick. Think about that. And any last words, gentlemen, before we end tonight's podcast?
Amen.
Well, besides the fact you just used assholiness, which is a quote from Flash Gordon, but yeah,
It is.
no, you get the good and you get the bad with a lot of these social funding projects, and you get some good shit, but you also get some guys who, you know they're trolling when they're asking for $50,000 to make potato salad. So, but then you need a Sarkeesian.
Does it take a genius to spot credibility?
Yeah, don't even get me started on that potato salad
I
bullshit.
agree there, Dave.
That was guys doing a joke, and the internet decided,
Yeah.
it'll be funny, let's all open our wallets. And then these same people go and criticize someone else for trying to get a passion project out. And I'm sorry to kind of make this an ass. I'm being an asshole myself, but I want to be blunt and I want to be blatant, and I want the community to understand something. Support one another, because we're the only support network that we have. Do you think any of these companies out there that are making billions from you even give a fuck? I probably can name you a few of them who do. Nintendo, Capcom are starting to give a fuck. But most of these companies don't give a fuck about you. It's the community that does. The indie developers are from our community. The people who are trying to make the next big game, who are bankrupting themselves, believe it or not, for their passions to get something out there, don't need you being a dick. They need your help. They need your assistance. If we work together, we can make the next big companies of tomorrow. And it won't be about stocks. It won't be about shareholders. It will be about each and every one of you and making a game that you will love and that your children will love. The game that will pass down to the next generation, and could be the game. It could be their Donkey Kong. It could be their Mario. It could be.
And we all win because you make the gaming, business environment a better place for everyone.
Exactly. So, in the world of Will Wheaton, don't be a dick. And going on that note, Dave, where can we find you?
You can find me on Longboy's Post 1975 on YouTube. I'm on a massive ZX Spectrum kick right now. And other than that, any cool forms of retro gaming you like, chances are I've covered that system and that format. Community questions, vlogs, generally anything that's on my mind and or pisses me off. And you can find me on Facebook as Dave Wade. Used to be Longboy's Post, but, we all know what happened with Facebook. They became soup Nazis. No name for you.
Sean, what about you?
YouTube.com/user/dietlist79, DAIATLUS79, same name on Twitter and Instagram and Instructables. We're here on Facebook. I do have a fan page, but it just doesn't get much traffic. Most people just add me on there, Sean J. Michelin. A lot of my posts are public anyway, so even if you don't want to add me, you can just give me a follow.
And ladies and gentlemen, you can find me on youtube.com/TheNerdGenius. I put a video out there which is kind of getting a bit popular at the moment. It's myself tackling the Mega Man burger. Now, if the video basically does well, I did say that I will do one of these videos once a month.
He will kill himself for you people. He will kill himself for you.
I would do one of these videos once a month, and basically what it would be in the same vein as this video, where I'll make the dish. Dave has actually given me my next dish, which is basically challenging one of the world's hottest curries. And I also means I have to go and find the pepper to make said curry with.
Wash your hands before you take a whiz, that's all I'm saying.
And you have a popsicle ready for your brown eye there for afterwards. It
So,
won't matter what flavor.
So check that out, guys. It's the Mega Man Burger, and also check out a video that's just been released today, which is doing pretty well as well. It's on the show E-Tank, which is myself and Xander Scullion. We unite together to do these top 5 videos, and it's the top 5 favorite Pokemon. So we talk about our Pokemon that we actually like to go
My
into
favourite
battle with.
Pokemon's Launchick. Just saying.
And also, yeah, check out the Who's That Pokemon series as well. Special notice that for some reason that's doing well as well. And thank you to everybody who listens to this show. I want to give a big shout out to everyone who listens to this show, listens to the Retro Random Network, and who basically goes onto my YouTube channel, to Dave's, to Sean's, and sees all our content, because without you there would be no us. So and then we do all this stuff for free, but we don't do it for the money. We do it for you. We do it because we want to connect with you and just express our opinions. And yeah, I want to give a great big thank you, because without you guys, I probably wouldn't even be here doing this. So I'll just be rambling to myself. So for Sean Michelin, for Dave Wade, for everybody else out there in Gaming One, and for the indie developers who need your support, this is Michael Burhan saying that we've got gameplay. Have you?